Welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining today. The title of today's webinar is Ways to Enhance Your Organizations and Vulnerability and Threat Detection in Your SAP Environment. Our presenters today will be Clemens Guter and Raphael Kelbert. My name is Stephanie Anderson. I'm the Global Webinar Manager here at Padlock. But before we go any further and Clemens and Raphael introduce themselves, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. If you have any audio issues during this webinar, click on Preferences and then Audio. From there, you can check to see if you are using the appropriate audio device. You can also click on the play sound to check if you can hear the sound coming from your speakers. This presentation will take approximately 40 minutes. There will be a Q&A session following the presentation, so please type any questions into the Q&A box for our speakers to answer at the end of the event. To prevent background noise, everyone is on mute. And with that, I'll let Clemens and Raphael introduce themselves.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Raphael Kelbert. I will start with the introduction for myself. I'm product management here at Padlock, responsible for the area with threat detection. And yeah, I do this since 3 years, starting before at SaaS Solutions Software in Germany. And yeah, I'm happy to have the webinar here today and show some cases for you. Clemens.
Thank you, Raphael. Clemens Gütter, my name. I'm also a product manager at Padlock. I'm responsible for vulnerability management, transport management, and code scanning. And I am in this role for half a year. Before I was more in charge of technical monitoring and things like this for 6 years. And yeah, I'm the technical part. And I will take over the vulnerability part of today's webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Clemens. So let's have a look on the agenda for today's webinar. We will start with our introduction as we have done it already. Then I will give you a company and solution overview of Padlock. And then we have a small attention test for you. There's your action needed. And then we have some frequently underestimated activities we will present to you. That is all my part. Then I will hand over to Clemens. He will show you how to use cyclical security analysis, so classical vulnerability scans. And I will take over then why real-time analysis is important as well. And you should always do both together. And when you do both together, you have the full vulnerability and threat detection security approach. And last but not least, we have some key takeaways for you to remember the most critical points. So let's have a look on the Padlock suite. Yeah, Padlock is becoming a powerhouse in application access governance space, but also application security side. We have millions of monitored for our customers. Billions business activities are monitored for our customers. Right now we have 500 plus employees worldwide. And yeah, I will show you why we are so grown this year, because we have a merger of 5 companies, as you see here: Padlock, SaaS Solutions in Germany, Apsian, CSI Tools in Belgium, and Security Viva from Great Britain. And yeah, right now we have offices global all over the planet, mostly in Europe, India, and the United States. But also in Israel and United Kingdom. And yeah, you can find and speak with us in all languages and all time zones, so we are present for you. Let's have an overview, a look on the solution overview for application security, access governance, and enforced controls. So we cover the whole 360 degrees protection for your business applications. Within application security, we offer things like vulnerability management, code scan, zero-day research, alerts, detection and response, and logging and CM integration. That is part of Clemens' things Then we have access governance like role design, redesign, compliant provisioning, separation of duties, user access certification and review, privilege and temporary access management. So all the user and credential part we cover as well. And enforced controls like transaction monitoring, data masking, really, and that's everything today. And control enforcement, transaction blocking, dynamic authorization, and SSO. So with all these, we cover the whole application security 360 within one software for you. So far as for the solution overview. And then let's start with your attention test, as I mentioned before. And the following, we will show you a video, and in the video, there's a guy in a sub van, and he's giving out sandwiches to people in orange t-shirts. And please count how many people in orange t-shirts get subs, but there will be a description in the video as well. You don't need sound or something like that. It's just a silent video. Yeah, I hope you counted how many people. We don't give the solution right now because there will be a follow-up section on this video, and there's a reason why we say, okay, test the attention, and we'll see if you just focus on the subs or on the other things going on here as well. And yeah, so let's continue, or keep your number you counted in head, because we will open this solution afterwards, but let's keep on and have a look on frequently often underestimated things in security. Most of the companies right now focusing on authentication, user management, and authorizations for security. And in all these, in a lot of companies, these three parts, when these are covered, the people say, okay, we are safe here. We've done all things for security. But we say, oh no, especially within SAP systems, you're not done with authentication, user access management, authorizations, because there are things going on in the background of the system, and you also need to check the status of your system. So you need analysis and reporting, company-wide consolidation of security settings. So what is the status of my compliance regulatories? And so then you need an overview of system and infrastructure security. So like code security, RC gateway, networks and interfaces, what's going on, and what are in these things time spot periodic, but also what's going on over time. And that is one of the most things doing wrong within SAP security, that people are focusing on authentication, user access management, and authorizations, but leaving the system and the infrastructure side beside and behind. Yeah. So Clemens, please tell us, what does this cybersecurity framework and padlock combine?
Thank you, Raphael. I think most of you already, at least a little bit familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, which more or less contains 5 major pillars of an safe or secured critical infrastructure. First pillar is identify. That you, for example, had some asset management, you know what you have, that you have some risk assessment and risk management strategy, and so on and so on. There are these points and also some sub points. I don't want to go too much in detail for every point, just to give you a little introduction. The second pillar is about the protection. For example, the access control with roles, user provisioning, such thing, data security, your data is, for example, encrypted and so on. And also that you have some maintenance, especially, for example, patch processes, security patches, and such points. The third pillar is the detection, that you identify if something is not normal. Some anomalies, some security events, that you have processes to detect this. If you detect such a thing, you need to respond. You need to have a proper planning, how to respond, how to communicate, for example, to customers, to management, to workers, whatever. You need to analyze the problem. You need to mitigate if possible and make improvements for the next time. And what's also important to have this recoverable, where you have some recovery planning to go as fast as possible back to normal production. Just to give you a little introduction in this framework. We from padlock especially support you with our solution in the middle part to protect. For example, with the vulnerability management, we can give you information about your SAP system. Is it hardened? Is it not hardened? Where you need to improve, for example, also the code scanning and so on. And also the access control, the whole user part, we support you with the detection, later part, for example, detect problems, but also detect if someone downloads something from you, for example. And also the response, that you identify it and you know there is something happened. Next slide, please. So following this cybersecurity framework, next slide, please. Yeah. You need to know that there are different layers of protection. So first, the basic layer and the most important one, so-called role-based access control. This includes control the users, the roles, entitlements. Every user only should have the authorizations he needs for his work, that you have a proper permission concept and so on. The next layer is the so-called attribute-based access control. Here you can add some behavior-based information. For example, only if you are from an internal IP range, you can have access onto the system. Or if you are in US, you are allowed to see some data, but if you are not in US, you are not allowed to do this. Even if you have the authorization, as long as you are not located currently in US, you're not allowed to see something. The next level is the vulnerability detection. This is especially my part, that you detect some vulnerabilities, unsecure configurations, code scanning, especially in SAP, you have these transport topics. All this whole part that you find out some, by scanning some vulnerabilities. And the last level which you need is the threat detection, where you detect and respond to threat in real time. This is especially if you have some attack, for example, that you directly see if someone tries to steal your data, create a user without the authorization, all these things in real time, where you can have a proper reaction onto it. Next, please. So, but what is the common security states of system landscapes required? There are some policy-based security scans, beginning with some comprehensive vulnerability scans in accordance with legal regulations, for example, from SAP, internal requirements from SAP, the security baselines, as like the SAP security guidelines, sorry. for example, but also other guidelines. We also follow, for example, some SOX requirements and other legal parts in different countries, but also the NIST and the attack framework, where we can protect from vulnerability problems and also from threat detections. Our solution is full flexible. For example, we deliver directly 4,000 checks in different areas. These checks and assessments are fully customizable, according to your needs. And you can also define and create individual checks if something is missing or you completely have some other approaches to a problem, so you can freely adapt things. Our content is always up to date. We deliver monthly and sub-security patch day update, where all the important patches are mentioned for you. Our tool also checks if the patch is already implemented or if it's missing. And so you have an overview here. You can easily down and upload our content. And we have our own security research team to just bring our content up to date and have the latest state-of-the-art content for you. Next, please. But back to the system hardening, how such an approach is working with our tool, how we support you, and how we think is the best approach to get a hardening process to have a final state where all your systems are according to your audit requirements. First, we start on the left side with defining some target state. For example, it can be by our policies, we deliver you based on some legal requirements, but you also can have some internal requirements, whatever, and we define this wished target state. And then we start with a first landscape analysis. Probably most of the points will be red, means not fulfilled. We have some critical problems. Maybe we have some areas where we have just some minor issues. Maybe we have also some green, but for this one, we have only the network which is yellow. And then we start working. We provide you some solutions, some information how to fix them. And you need step-to-step start fixing the high issues and so on. If you scan the next time, you will, for example, have some green, some more yellow, and the rest red, and so on, and so on, and so on, as long as you have an actual state where everything is green. Green means it fits your target state. And if you arrive this, you will start with a cyclical internal testing, where you, for example, once a month, once a day, once a quarter, based on your requirements, make and scan and check your system. And it's important for vulnerability management that you not only check one or two production systems, it's important you have your whole landscape, your whole systems scanned, and we support you with our tool here. Sorry, next please. So let me take over the presentation now.
Yeah, I will hand over the rights for presentation.
Yeah, I make myself a presenter.
Okay, yeah.
And show my screen.
Yeah.
I hope you can see it.
Absolutely.
So what I want to show you now is how we give you an overview about such cyclical scans in our so-called Security Information Center. The Security Information Center is a UI5-based dashboard where you get the most important information about these audit plans. And here in the dashboard page, for example, you see what audit plans you have for scopes. An audit plan in our wording contains, for example, technical system tests, which are more or less the vulnerability management, but also some checks for critical authorizations, for example, SOD conflicts. You can add some organizational parts, for example, some manual checks where you need to check some documentation if the landscape documentation is fulfilled, whatever. And we have also some role quality checks here. And here you can see how many audit plans for which category are scheduled and some other informations. Don't want to get too much in detail here because of lack of time, but I have scheduled here a weekly spot, which is intended, not on the system, but intended to run weekly and give you an overview about your landscape in the technical perspective. To show you how this can work, we have here an overview about the runs which are scheduled. You have the systems which are integrated. For example, we have here 3 production systems. For demo perspectives, you have the scope. It's only a technical scope. And you have here some details, but as I said, I don't want to go too much in detail. You can start and run here immediately to have the latest data. And okay, so this is the demo perspective. If the system doesn't react too fast, I get here an error. We are working currently on this because it's an unexpected behavior. But now this audit cycle is running. This will take some minutes, so I will just jump in the one I executed 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago, to give you a more detailed introduction in how it looks. In the next step, you have an overview about, okay, the system's a little bit slow, about the results of this. You also have an landscape here or a world map where you can see which countries are your systems located, for example, and all are red currently, because for our demo perspective, we have a lot of findings here. You see to which type of failure there are these errors. And for example, for this S4H system, we have 8 findings which are very high, or type of findings. Let me just jump in this risk by area, for example. We have 1,200 findings of type software. Type software in this case means that is patching of security patches they are missing. We have at type ABAP, this means some code scanning findings, and type BASIS is, for example, a lot of vulnerability things. But as you see, it's only an overview. If you want to have more details, you can jump to the risk details. And then you see, for example, a delete report statement. We found it's very high because you can delete whatever report you have, and this is an ABAP finding. This means a code scanning finding. You have a lot of more checks here. For example, some authority checks for RFC is deactivated, which is very high. And last but not least, some RFC things and so on. Here's a huge list of informations. Yeah, so far to this dashboard. We are currently working on a more detailed level, also for the daily work to fix this information on the dashboard side. But on the dashboard currently, we only have the overview. For more details, you need to directly jump into the system and get then a detailed description about how to fix this problem and what does this is, for example, this authority check for SRFC deactivated param 00006 directly mean. There's also an explanation about this error and the solution, as I said. And we work on it to bring it also in the dashboard and to make it more complex and more to get more information into it. So for my demonstration, I think you need to grab it back and we come back to slides.
Thank you, Clemens. I just grabbed it back by myself, and we're back on the slides. I think we got a great overview how cyclical checks are working with these audit plans. So for self-auditing, and yeah, you can check different types of your configuration setup, things like that. And we have these video in the beginning of the slides, your attention test. And I hope you got 7 people as your own count. But as I mentioned before, it's just a small phase for you to spot you on something, and there's things going up in the background. And let's continue the video. They will maybe it's interesting for you to see what's happening. But did you notice? Yeah, there was this truck. It's changing from an ice cream truck to a pizza truck. The guy has glasses on right now, and there's a sports bag placing next to the car. And I think in most of the cases, people don't recognize things going up in the background like they don't do here. And that's a great example for when we focus on these cyclical checks. Yeah, we have great plans and great audits and a great policy how to check our system, but we just do it once in a month maybe, or once a year, like when there's some of these auditing companies like KPMG, Ernst Young coming to you in the company and do an audit. They are just checking it once in a year. And what is when there's something happening within this year between 2 checks? So let's say you have user permissions with a lot of rights, and you check it on December, and everything is green. You don't have users with false given user permissions, and then there is a user in January knowing the next check will be in December, and he's setting up a new user or signing up a new user, and the user has great permissions and can do everything in the system. And in November, he deletes the user. You don't go or get the information that the user is created and that there is something happening with this user within the periodic of 10 months. And so I was just locked out of the system. So there's things going up in the background in SAP systems as well. And let's check out what are these. This is a point why cyclical checks are not just sufficient, and real-time monitoring can fill this gap, and you can detect things going up in the background with real-time threat detection or just real-time detection. It's not always a threat, but sometimes it's just to get a great overview of your logs without reading all the logs or using all the logs in your CM tool. But I will say something to that further on. And also we can forward these findings or reduce findings to your CM out of the box. And I will show you a small example how we can protect data downloads. And there are other things like password changes and things we can capture as well. But yeah, let's go to the system and have another small demonstration part. And I think I will just quickly log in on the SAP system with my user. On there. Oh no, I just logged in with German, but yeah, don't don't have to care. So I open SE16 for opening tables, and there I go to use our 02. It's the table for user data. And yeah, let me open user 02. They will create the report, and then I can check, yeah, I have to recreate it. So, and here I can download all these information. Yeah, I have the permission at the user, even if it's blocked out right here, but I can download it. And when I start the download, I can just start it here. Say test, create this file, and then you can see, okay, with our extended logging, that the first step, each download is monitored and will be reviewed. So there's an information for the user that we can detect your downloads, and when the user canceled the download right here, there's nothing protocoled, there's nothing happened because he just stopped the download. When he continues and download the data, as I do here right now, you see I downloaded the data successful, and now I can sign off the system. There's a lock in the creation, or there's a lock created, and we can analyze this lock. I will log out here and switch over to our, yeah, I don't need this anymore, and switch over to our Fiori front end here. And within the front end, Clemens already mentioned our security information center dashboard. So we have the security radar here as well. And within the security radar, we have a lot of data collecting, and there's a lot of events upcoming. So we have 41,000 events right now, and maybe it's a bit too much, but you can easily create filters on the events up here, save the filters, and that is something I did for downloads. So you can see here security radar data downloads, and when I use the filter and apply it as a data protection manager, I easily can see here, okay, there are 2 downloads. One is done on today, 14 o'clock Central European time, so 2 p.m. And the other one is just, yeah, a few seconds ago. And we can see here the download, which size, where it is saved on the client, which client did that, and we see the transaction used for starting the download. We can see the program, and within the program we see the database as well. So we see it's from something from user 02 data. We can see the terminal and a lot of things like that combined to the user. We see here, it's easy for forensic research. And yeah, so far for the demonstration part here, just to show you, there are a lot of logs created, and with our solution on threat detection, you can easily grab these events, and yeah, you can combine it. Maybe you say, okay, it's just one download, and downloads are not necessary if there's just one download from user, but if there are 2 or 3 or maybe 5 downloads from the same user terminal in a short time, that should be an event. So you can sign up a new event, a complex event from our side, and you say, okay, that's a complex event for us if there's this amount of downloads within a short time period or things like that. And you will get a higher severity for that, because a classical download is just a severity of 5, and yeah, maybe then you say it's a 9 or a 10, and it will pop up in your team with more present. And how does our cyclical or real-time cybersecurity monitoring work? You have 1 million of log lines within the SAP system, and there are really millions of log lines written within a day. And we are using an intelligent filtering with the padlock security radar. So you can set up with out of 4,000 events for special filters and patterns. You can decide which of these log lines are relevant for you. So you just start with a small case and say, let's focus on special things, and you reduce all the log lines, and we do that with our software automatically. You don't have to go through all these different logs. We have 65 different data sources connected, and within these 4,000 logs or 4,000 events we are handling out of the box. And you can say, okay, let's reduce my logs. So you reduce these million of log lines to 1,000 events. In these events, there's something potentially happening. Then you have a CM or SOC team maybe, and the SOC team starts or look at these 1,000 events and starts 10 event investigations, because they say, okay, maybe it's 99% is false positives, but it's good that we have the information here. But in these 10 cases, there's something curious going on. Let's start an investigation. And yeah, out of these investigations, there are 2 incidents. And yeah, you can do these part here on your SAP side with our tool, or at least you can use these 1,000 events created here and forward them to your CM system out of the box, because we have different connectors for different CM systems, and we can support all the common formats here. And yeah, you don't have to forward 1 million log lines to your system. You just have to forward 1,000 events, and so you can reduce your costs by 1,000%, because you reduce the log lines. And most of the CM systems, that you have to pay per log line you're transmitting to the system. And at least for the incidents, you get a customer information. Then there's something you have to handle. Yeah, so far how the real-time cybersecurity monitoring works. Let's have a look on the holistic security approach. How does cyclic checks and real-time threat detection go hand in hand? And Clemens mentioned that you can check your configuration of SAP landscape and user and authorizations easily with cyclical checks, and that's the normal way how you do it. You can set up different policies with different time periodics. So you can say there are things I will just scan monthly, and there are other things I will check on a daily basis, and you can start different audit cycles for these different checks. And yeah, you can monitor it. And to fill the gaps between these cyclical checks, here we've drawn it with these arrow. You can have monitored all the process and change management things, and protocol all the things going up, and all the behavior analytics you can do within your SAP system. And you can do that without threat detection or within your CM and SOC solution already is installed. And we always say, please integrate all the information you're getting here within your CM and SOC team, but also when you're getting information in your threat detection, in your real-time detection, vulnerability detection, please use our threat detection engine and skip it over. You can do that, and you can skip over these things to your CM tool as well. And so you have all the checks, the cyclical and the real-time checks within your CM tool, and you can analyze it there with your CM and SOC team or with your dedicated SAP security team as like you want. So far from our side, and I think I will hand over to you with some of our key messages. To Clemens. Yeah.
Because it's it from our side.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Raphael. So what is our key takeaway here? On the first side, it's really important to avoid blind spots in security management. What does blind spots mean? Like Raphael said in the last slide, first we try to get an target state which we can hold with the cyclical analysis of vulnerabilities, of SODs, of authorizations, and so on. But on the other hand, we need to detect if something is changed. And only together you can avoid blind spots. Therefore, it's important to establish an efficient real-time monitoring to detect time-critical threats. You have your browser opened. Raphael, we see your browser. Okay, thank you. But on the other hand,
I don't know why just there popped up my browser. I don't know why. Sorry.
Thanks. But on the other hand, if you have on one side the real time, you also need the cyclical analysis because you need an actual wanted state to see some changes of it. And only if both ways work hand in hand, you have the full picture. And what, like the first point said, is needed to avoid these blind spots. On the other hand, it's important to integrate your SAP security strategy into an enterprise-wide solution. Just to not have some only SAP-focused approaches. You need a full build of the whole security strategy just to know what is the baseline you need, which is required for your company and so on. As I said before, the holistic SAP security means that you integrate both, and you need to avoid a lack of cybersecurity resources, because if you have some finding, you also need the capabilities to solve problems. But the main point I want to mention here is just keep your security up to date. It's just so important to get informations, to get the latest content, and to be always up to date, because security is not an one way or one time task. It's an ongoing project which always needs to be up to date. So from my side also, I want to hand over into the Q&A section now. If you have some questions, you can just type it into it. And I think we have some minutes left to answer it.
Thank you, Clemens, and thank you, Raphael, for your presentation. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, please add them now into the chat box. In the meantime, while we wait for that, will you go to the next slide, Raphael?
Yeah, of course I will.
Okay, so we just have one announcement for today. We have our Padlock Virtual Innovation Series coming up on December 5th through the 8th. I'm right now going to put into the chat the link for our web page talking about that innovation series. This will be a virtual conference that will go into detail on all topics from SAP to Oracle to PeopleSoft, and we're going to have many different other companies coming and presenting with us. If you go to that link that I just provided in the chat, you can see all the other different companies and sessions that are available for you to register for. So I encourage you to register for the sessions during this innovation series, and we hope to see you there. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions for today. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you at future webinar events.
Yeah, thanks from our side as well. Thanks for joining, and if there are questions upcoming afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will try to answer in the way as possible.
So we wish you some nice holidays next week, and have a nice day.